As always, we'd like to start today out with a prayer. And Bing, would you please lead us in prayer?
Heavenly and Sweeten, we do thank you, Father, for your blessings that you have given us. We thank you for our children, grandchildren, and our elders. We thank you, Father, for watching over those that had lost their loved one just recently. We also pray for those that had some mishaps with the fire and everything else that went on down in the Ebro country. We pray for them, Father, that you give them a home, give them a place to live. Thank you, Father, for watching over our veterans, our men and women in the armed services. We ask that you stop the wars that have been across the ocean from us, Ukraine and Israel. We ask you that you watch over those people over there, Father, and give them hope that they're going one of these days everything's going to be like it was. We ask you, Father, to just bless the council and give us guidance today on the decisions that we're going to make. We ask this in your name.
Thank you, Bing. Okay, we have our minutes from November 30th, I believe, that we need to look at.
Mr. Chairman, just one change. I was not in attendance at the meeting. I was at the Rocky Mountain Tribal Leaders in Billings.
Thank you, Len. Any other comments or corrections for the minutes?
To approve with corrections.
Motion by Len to approve the November 30th Tribal Council minutes with corrections. Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? All right. Got 8-4, 1 abstention. Jimmy? Okay, we have today's agenda. Any changes to the agenda, additions? Watkins?
Items I would like to.
Okay. Len and Carol. Okay. Any other items? I have one item. Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve today's agenda with the addition. Motion by Jimmy, second by Mike. Any further discussion? See none, all is in favor? Unanimous? Okay, go ahead, Len.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and we'll just stay in open session here. I just wanted to briefly mention that I know that we have assigned a lot of projects to our staff to try to complete, and it's been really difficult keeping track of those projects. One of the projects that we've been really wanting to get off the ground is the Elmo store. And I wanted to mention that I think it would be a great idea if we were to assign Mr. Bible from SK Business Services to take the lead in this project and begin planning and keeping us updated, et cetera, and things like that. So I would like to make that motion, so we have that on record to show that we're moving forward with it. So I would like to make the motion to appoint James Bible as to take the lead in doing the planning and developing a plan for the Elmo Travel Plaza / store.
All right, motion by Len to assign the Elmo Store Travel Plaza project to James Bible. Second by, who was the first one? Terry? I think Terry was the first one. Terry, second by Terry. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Martin? Did you get a thumbs up? I didn't see. Assuming it's unanimous. Okay, there it is. Okay. Thank you, Len.
All right.
Thank you for bringing that up.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you the council for supporting me on that. Item number 2, I was contacted by tribal member Tony Barnaby. Tony has informed me for some time, 25 to 30 years now, he has not received a per capita payment. And it was due to the fact that, from what I understand, about 30 years ago, he was sued in tribal court. And I don't think it was ever kept track of on restitution. And so he wanted us to see if we can have staff look into how much was paid, how much interest was paid, and if he were able to start getting his per capita now. So if we can assign a staff member to do that.
Should be a record in tribal court, yeah.
I think he has reached out to tribal court and having gotten no response. He's reached out to the defender's office on a couple of occasions and they didn't have no record. So.
Well, I think we can do the due diligence of the record of his per capita is going out.
Yeah.
So we'll know exactly how much has been retained for his per capita.
He had a $52,000 judgment that was divided in half, so $26,000 that he was responsible for.
How many years ago? 15, 20, 30?
I think it was before 2000, or the year 2000. I don't have all of the details and facts, but he was
pretty close.
Yeah, he was going to visit with council this morning. He could not.
Ken, can you find someone to do that? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Len.
Okay.
We'll look into it.
Okay, thank you all. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Len. Carol?
I don't know if council's ready to do this, but I was gonna ask on the Medicaid Part B, if we're ready to direct Patricia Hibbler and Tribal Health to initiate the process of looking at paying Medicaid Part B and reimburse members. But this is gonna be a process. We can't just take action and expect it to happen. I think accounting's gonna have to set up something. We're gonna have to educate the membership. I mean, there's a process involved, and that's what I would like to have developed, is that we move forward on the development of that. And I don't want it to take 2-3 years. I want it to, be done as soon as Patricia, well, I guess maybe we should ask Patricia Hibbler how long it would take for her to get all those components together so we can take it out to the membership, educate them, let them know what our plans are, and then authorize it coming out of third-party revenue to reimburse members back for Part B that have signed up for Part B. Correct, Tom? Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Len.
Question is, I'm not sure if the council's ready to do that yet.
I am. Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Carol, just a suggestion, I would support support an action if you were to make the motion, so we can have it a record, showing the record that we've directed our staff to move forward with, starting to look into the reimbursement on this. So it shows, and, we can, continue to follow up with them, letting them know that this was a council action and we need to know results.
Thank you, Len. You could make it in the form of a motion for a 90-day timeline to produce for all eligible members of the Confederated Sasquatch Kootenai tribes who are 65 and older, reimbursement, potential for reimbursement of some level of their Medicare B coverage. That would be some range from full compensation to $1. 90 days would give them plenty of time,
Okay.
I would imagine.
And I would like to, I mean, this is kind of you bringing this forward, Tom. I mean, I don't think this would be anywhere close to where it is today if it wasn't for you stressing that, and I think it'll help the members out a lot. And the other thing, I got a call. I'm not trying to get away from this issue, but I got a call yesterday asking me where their power reimbursement is from Kerr. And I said, well, I thought we were going to do that, but apparently I'm mistaken, because I don't know if we're going to be helping members like that yet, and they said, well, we heard that you could buy a thing at Costco that will help members save power. And I guess this rumor's going, and it's me that I guess said that you could go to Costco and buy this item. But anyway, I think if we can't do that, this is something that we definitely can do. If there's a lot of money in that account, I don't know exactly how much. I think Ruth might know what's in third-party revenue, but maybe not right offhand. Anyway, yeah, I'll make that motion if we're in session, and
Motion by Carol.
just exactly what you said.
Okay, well,
And we'll call it Tom
Jen can figure that one out.
McDonald's,
Tom McDonald's Medicare plan.
yeah, there you go. Strategy, right?
Let's see, as I look at my fellow Medicare eligible recipients.
Even though I'm like you, I won't accept it because I can afford it.
Well, Mike brought up a good valuable point though.
Yeah,
In his
he did.
discussion. So, regardless of who the payee is, if someone's engaged in it, to equally treat everybody fairly, you would reimburse them all.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
whether it's the federal program or your private insurance. Second by Len. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Martin? Vicky's on board. Yes, unanimous.
And I have one other issue.
Yep, okay, go ahead.
I would also like to have at the next tribal health meeting, a discussion about THIP, about the elders program, DHRD. Everybody seems to be doing this work for elders and for our tribal community, but I don't know if there's really any organizational thing moving forward, because I think THIP's doing their thing, elders doing their thing. They lost their nurse. This one over here doesn't actually, THIP doesn't actually, what I understood from the discussion last night, they don't really get out and do things for elders. What they do is get them signed up and things like that. And I'm thinking, you know what? I'm totally confused about this whole thing. And I would just like to have a full discussion of all these programs that work for elders, why they can't work together. I mean, just my sister being in the hospital now, she's out and home. But there was applications that I think if people were going to visit, they could ask her, well, have you filled out this? Have you signed up for an absentee ballot, for instance? Or have you signed up for LEAP, or have you signed up for the program at Tribal Health, at housing? And there's so many things that these people can be doing, but I don't even know if their funding mechanisms allow them to do this. So I think it's really more, and I can take it upon myself to learn this. I don't know if the rest of you need this, but I'm not sure if they're all working in concert together to meet the needs of the membership. Or if they're just so siloed and everybody's doing their own thing and we're missing so much. And if we all just work together, I think it would be a huge impact for our elders and everybody else, people with disabilities. I mean, I just think we could do a better job, but maybe I'm missing the boat. I don't know. I don't want to be critical of a program that's doing a really good job, but just because I'm not sure, I don't know. I hope I'm making sense, but it's THIP, elders, EHRD. I think we need to have a big powwow together and really discuss what we could all work towards for our people. That's it.
Thank you, Carol. Jen?
Did you guys have anything scheduled for chairman's meeting on Monday? Could have Patty Hibbler. These are all her departments.
Just got a lot of people missing on Monday.
Oh, okay.
Well, at least 3 or 4. I don't know.
Maybe we could have a discussion with Joe first at his.
Our
health-
next health committee meeting is scheduled for mid-January, I believe. You don't want to wait that long.
I think what brought it to light is that building up there.
Oh, yeah.
And I found out there are 13 people in the smaller building, kitty corner from the middle school in Ronan. And who's all in tribal health building, the new one? I don't know. I just think there are spaces available already. Do we need to be renting another one?
Yeah. I think the following Monday might be better. Or is that when we're meeting with Rick? Okay. Well, we could try to do it Monday. I think are you traveling Monday? Okay. You're next Monday? Oh, you'll be here Monday? Okay. But you're going to Tuesday. Okay. So yeah, we can do it Monday. Let's try it Monday. Bring in Patty and
This Bing will be gone Monday.
he's gone on Monday. You're gone on Monday. What we miss?
I'm going to George Washington University to be on a panel discussion about tribal tourism.
She won an all-round trip, paid trip to back east.
I'm leaving Monday and coming back Wednesday.
Yeah. So we can do it Monday.
Patty Hibbler just to give her time to, if I tell her now.
Yep.
to get it
Tell her
all ready
now.
for Monday.
Yep. It's Patty, all of Patty's programs.
Okay.
Give me some notes. Okay, the one item I have is, once again, I'm disappointed in the phone system. I personally took it upon myself when I first had a cell phone working for the tribes, I would always answer my phone. And I've strived to that 24/7, tried to do it, but when this system here where they introduced the computer recordings, I do not get my phone messages, and they only come through when I check my email. So it's yesterday killed it for me because it was an important call with the reporter talking about Rick Shaney's bill. The deadline was last night. I missed it because it didn't come through my phone, sitting there on my computer, and I'm totally pissed. So it's inexcusable for me to be able to have that kind of delay. I hate the system. I asked for them to get me off the system so my calls would come through like regular, like they used to do. And so it's just not working for me. So I'm going to, I don't know what to say. I don't know if there's a way to bypass the computer system log. It's not working for me. Yeah, so I mean, it should have been a call that should have rang through my phone, but it didn't. It ended up getting stuck on the computer voice messaging. And the only way I can recall it is through emails. So I get like probably average, I don't know, 10 emails every minute. And a lot of it's junk, some of it's everything. So I can't sit there, know that call comes in, that it's a message and a call. I don't know how that can be. But if it's a voicemail that comes on my cell phone, I get that, and I can respond. But to miss a call like that one just killed me. That was unnecessary. And I had to apologize to the guy this morning. And that was an important one for a wildlife newsletter that would help fight the stupid brick chaining initiative. And I missed it. So I'm pissed. Sorry. I don't know how we fix it, but
Kind of get Lisa down here. She oversees IT and that's their system.
yeah, I asked to get off of it, but they apparently couldn't do it.
But how come they don't let us know? Because I started getting these little things on my email and I'm like, well, how did this happen? And I listened to it and I thought, holy Christ, this is the message from a tribal member. And I wouldn't have known. I would have ignored it otherwise. Nobody told me that this was happening.
Yeah.
Anybody else have the problem? Or is it just slow me?
Depends on your volume of calls, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
When they're trying to call, I don't know. Okay, that was my thing. Just wanted it. Oh, okay. You can fix it, I don't know, but that's
Chairman, just wanted to mention, it sounds like we found a solution for the tribal members. That house burned down up in Evero, so.
the SCAHA was going to put her in the elders apartment there in Arley. Did she get the paperwork filled out and everything?
Coming down.
Yeah. Okay.
Jimmy, you might find out if she needs a bed and stuff because I can
Yeah,
have Sheila
I'm
get one
pretty
ready.
sure she needs everything. She doesn't have anything, so I kind of mentioned it to Patricia. She was gonna check that out also. But the application will be done tomorrow, and hopefully we'll move forward there.
Close.
I want to say I'm glad housing came through on this, really.
Absolutely. It was a good job. Lisa, I just can't take it anymore. So
Okay,
this
good
has to
morning.
do with the phone messaging system using the computers. So anytime that I miss a call that ends up getting recorded on the computer system, then I get notified through an email that there's a phone message. I want to cease and desist that practice. I want all my emails to count, or all my phone messages to be recorded on my cell phone. That way I get notification that I have a missed call. I asked about that before and nothing changed, but there was an important call yesterday that I missed, and I missed the deadline last night. And if I would have had regular cell coverage or the message come through on my cell phone versus email, I would have been able to catch that. So I get, literally thousands of emails a day,
I believe.
but I don't get thousands of calls a day, and I don't get thousands of recorded messages a day. I just want the recorded message to not be on the computer system. I want it to be on my phone.
Okay, I'll talk to IT and see if they can do it with, out having to come over. They might be able to just do it on their side.
Well, I
in
asked
the
it
back end.
before, but nothing happened.
Okay, I'll
because
go
it's-
over,
Yeah,
get her done.
thank you. I don't know, Carol, did you want to bypass it too? That's a hard thing to do.
Okay,
I mean, you got to be on your phone all the time to watch that because, yeah.
okay. Is there anyone else that, should I just ask for everyone's to be removed then?
It's an impossible way to respond
Okay.
On it for due diligence and quick responses. I think that's some of the problem that people are referring to, where people aren't responsive, they're answering their calls. I
So-
think that may be part of the problem.
Would you prefer that I just talk to them and see if they can disable that and then people can put
I
themselves on it
prefer all
if
my
they would
calls to
like
come
to?
directly to my damn phone.
Right, no,
That's
I
what-
just mean like organizational wide, would you like me to have people just sign up for it instead of having
I
it
think if people
default
can
that
opt
way?
out and they're getting complaints, then they should have that opportunity to
Okay.
opt out and improve their communication.
Okay, I'll talk to them about that and see if they can get an email out to all that just says
Thank
that.
you,
Get
Lisa,
a hold
thank
of
you.
whoever. All right,
Thank you.
anything else?
Nope, that was it.
Yeah, they tested it out. They weren't able to recreate the same situation. They're thinking if they use the pack that has the microphone, those don't connect very well, and that might have been the problem, but when they were using the direct microphone, they couldn't get it to recreate. Oh, heck. So they turned it on so people could use the microphones. I think nobody must have been there to let them know that it was, the system was set up and on for them to use. Okay, I'm guessing that's what happened, because I know he said they sent people down to set it up and have it available, but if no one used the microphone, that's probably what the problem was, is they were on. Okay.
There's been times when I've been at services there where it's been a problem, the PA system.
Yeah. That's what he had mentioned, is we might need to get some other speakers, so I'm gonna meet with Patty and see how we do the budget, because it's not technically attached to the building, to figure out how to get that addressed. Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
Lisa, yesterday, those lights right there in the middle, we get hot, seemed like, and they'd shut off. I know Bing turned them on this morning and they ran for a while and they shut off, turned off again. Just the middle floor, some. Light didn't come on till Len showed up.
He's powering them through his Aurora. Thank you, Lisa. Okay.
Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, first up, we have Ruth. Come on up, Ruth, spin the wheel.
Next.
That's quick.
So we're at modification 3 to fiscal 24 total allocations. We have a couple of awards in the self-governance compacts. And there's a typo there, that does not need to be 2 S's at compacts. And then we're gonna post the increase to contracts and grants. And also ask for your approval of an allocation of the 8291 to account for purchase of the water that recently arose here in Pablo. That funding is available not only just for buying household bottled water, but it could be used to buy Culligan service if a household was unable to have a safe supply of drinking water for any period of time. But that is the absolute restriction on that funding, because it was CARES Act, so that's why I have to kind of go overkill on that one. Net increase would be 6.6 million. Going through the table, you see the increase to general fund of 1.2 million is to bring forward all the tribal earmark programs. Tribal earmark means we were awarded revenue, or we collected or received revenue in the prior period, and we are now posting what is now available in this fiscal year. The total of all of those is at 1.2. You see the increases that come down in the compacts, both IHS and BIA totaling 4 million. That's to increase the spending authority for all of those similarly earmarked programs, because we've not closed fiscal 23 yet and we don't know what actual carryover is. So it's just to let the program operate through the end of the calendar year without disruption. The increase to contracts and grants programs, 1.3 million for the total increase, and total allocations now increased to 229,165,516. The increases by fund, those were the functional breakouts now by fund, keeping you apprised of how this is really the key facts for financial management to be aware of. General fund now just over $75 million authorized. In self-governance, IHS 37.7 million, BIA 27.1. Total contracts and grants of just under 17 million, third party remaining at 18.2, and then water compact comprising that total. As I say, going back to the functional allocation is really, where you look at what do we have projected to spend currently in the budgets by the type of major expense. And government services is probably the most varied one because it includes a lot of different things. So it includes prosecutors, defenders, the culture programs, language programs, maintenance is really the big one there. We have a big budget allocation for facilities projects, 10 million. So that's almost half of what that is. Health and Human Services and Natural Resources are always, the top ones at just over 70 and almost 72 million of those respectively. Administration, I know this is one of great interest to most of you, 23.5, just over 18 of that is for the indirect cost pool programs. The other 5 is going to take up what the tribe expenses for its own indirect cost on its programs. Indirect cost shortfall to make up for indirect costs that's not fully recovered in any program, mostly federally or other awarded. And then of course, per capita remaining at the 12.1 currently. Indirect costs, there you see that. Those are representing indirect costs expense in the 2 compact budgets. Did I cover everything? I felt like I needed to answer more fully instead of just coming in sometimes and saying, just approve the resolution. But if you have any further questions, just.
Any questions for Ruth? I want to know how you're going to find double that amount of money to meet our need. No, I'm just joking.
We think about that all the time. I just want to comment to, go ahead and consider your action here.
Okay, motion by Len to approve the resolution for modification 3 to the fiscal year 2024 total allocation budget. Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Unanimous? Go ahead, Ruth.
Okay, going to your points raised about the reimbursement for Medicare Part B. I agree that tribal health has been, I think, requested for quite some time. I mean, this is going back a long time in my awareness in the job I'm doing. They really do need to take a long-term view on that. And it's easy enough to compute what the cost is, but the mechanics of implementing it could get, kind of, I think complex would be an apt word for that. Some folks are doing a plan already to supplement their Medicare because they're also Medicaid eligible. And so they're already getting that offset. They're getting their Medicare B, or at least a portion of it, back to them. So someone who is really knowledgeable how those like Medicare Advantage and supplemental plans work really needs to be in this process and very, fully aware and informed so that the person can understand. The one thing that we learned early on in looking at this is there is not a way for the tribe as a payer to pay CMS directly for the premium. So it has to be an incurred amount on the side of the beneficiary, and then it can be done that way. Carol is correct, it'd be third party. You can also use IHS purchased care to do that. And this is kind of why, and I'm really big on the tribal health department really needs to study and evaluate how they're going to make this work and what's the source of funding, how do they sustain that. This has really taken a long-term view. and ensuring that once we start this, we don't have to pull it back at some future time because of unfunded or lack of funding. Right now, we feel like Mike Pence, fly buzzing around my head. Right now, you saw that the third-party budget is just over 18 million. That budget is continuing to grow rapidly because of home care services and what tribal health is supplementing to sustain their current operations. And as they are starting to, you know, really increase that, it starts to exceed what they're collecting annually. And so whatever is in reserve means it's going to start decreasing. So those are the things that I wonder about, and can only be answered by them in their planning of services delivery. Mrs. Langford's comment about coordination of elder services goes entirely to my heart personally because of a situation that I assisted with on Friday. Elderly person with chronic condition needed to have a cardiac catheterization procedure at St. Pat's. Those take 6 to 8 hours. They said, well, we can get her there, but someone will have to pick her up. I said, well, she doesn't have transportation. Well, we'll get you a gas card and then you go to, I'm just going, okay, I appreciate the effort, don't get me wrong, but it was not going to meet the need. So like Carol, I have wondered about this care coordination that they are executing that's supposed to be community-based. I just naturally assumed that elderly or anybody with chronic condition would sort of get a, you know, kind of a extra emphasis, and especially people who already have barriers to accessing care. I mean, that's the main reason people get sick and get worse. They don't get to where they need to go. It's not because they're not trying to go, there's literally things that prevent them. So I would hope that that situation does not arise again. It shouldn't fall to people to try to figure out their own solutions when there clearly aren't any. So just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you, Ruth, for articulating that the way I should have, but yeah, exactly.
I was sitting back going like that, going, I really could not leave without making that comment. So appreciate your looking into and continuing to work on that.
Thank you, Ruth. Jen?
Martin has his hand up.
Oh, yeah, Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I hope you can hear me well in the airport. Ruth, I've been getting questions about stimulus payment next year from ARPA. Hope you could just bring in kind of an idea if that's even possible. If not, I just want to have some numbers to kind of give out to membership. Thank you.
Did you hear, Ruth?
I heard the very first part, and I believe that is always, you know, at the authority and decision of the council to make whatever funds may be available for such a purpose. And on that note, I did not request this issue on the agenda, but just wanted to keep you informed. We do need your approval of the elders benefit to be dispersed January. So I will make that agenda request. I did visit with Greg after we came in, or I came in that other day to get your dedication of the additional new revenue for that program.
Yes.
We will come back with that. Either
Can you come back
next
with
week.
the status of the ARPA funding? You know, what are their balances? And
Yes.
okay.
Martin's question was about ARPA payout.
Yes, I heard that.
The one comment on yours, you know, for the Medicare, yeah, it's a very complicated topic, and all the benefits that are out there for individuals, whether they're a veteran, they're a senior, they're Medicaid, I mean, it's just a colossal amount of information and confusing as heck. But the one thing that I really appreciate that we've been able to do is create third-party funding. And part of this package to make it sustainability for me is to expand those services where we can get reimbursed more on those products, and actually expand that customer base to everybody, not just Indian Health Service recipients. So I think there's a way that we can expand third-party billing revenue to sustain a more of a reasonable or predictable level of reimbursement for individuals for such coverage as Medicare B. So I think that's part of the package too, long-term sustainability is let's take advantage of our nice pharmacy buildings and provide a service that everybody needs. 24 hours pharmacy, you know, everybody in this valley needs that. And so there's easy things I think that we can increase revenue, provide more stability. So thank you for your comments, Ruth. Yeah, Jennifer.
Thank you. Well, I think that's a really great idea to do a 24-hour pharmacy. It would just do such a huge service to our community. But on another note, since Ruth is here, I just wanted to ask, so when I was at NCI, I went to a presentation, a listening session about the BIE funding formula. So the BIE is redoing their funding formula for how schools are funded. And they're taking comments until the end of December. And I didn't know if Rodney has weighed in on that, if he has put comments forward to them, or if we as a tribe should put comments forward so, you know, the funding formula helps increase funding to Two Eagle. I just don't know a lot about that process, but I thought, and they knew Rodney, the people in the room knew him personally, but I just didn't know if he had done it or if we as a tribe should do it or leave it as it is, or if somebody who works with that type of funding has looked at that to see if the proposed changes are advantageous to us. And I did forward you the slide deck that I got.
Ordinarily, the consultation process is going to be vetted through the usual people with the expertise. I believe Michelle may have seen that. Rodney certainly could be invited to comment. I thought at one time that Rick had assigned that to his staff to kind of take care of consultation comments on behalf of the tribe. We previously commented about the BIE ISEP funding regulation that was not beneficial to native language program instruction. And that went out over a year, just slightly a year ago. That was part of the administration's 10-year language revitalization discussion or their consultation topic. BIE funding is population-based, or excuse me, student enrollment-based. I was thinking of healthcare. So Two Eagle receiving that funding, it's based on their rolling 3-year average of student enrollment. And I thought that the number I last saw was about 120. In actual practice, the school at times had a enrollment that included students that were not eligible. They were choosing to serve students that were not members of federally recognized tribes or 1/4 blood quantum. So our comments, though, back on the ISEP funding as part of budget formulation in Interior also went to equity or comparability, that the ISEP funding is still underfunding Indian education when you compare it even just to our state. And our state is not one that is got an extremely high average rate per student funded. So even considering, you know, public schools can qualify for impact aid, plus their, you know, tax-based funding, the federally funded schools like Two Eagle or those run actually by the federal government are, it's worth looking at. And it doesn't surprise me at all because that's historically been Indian program funding. It's less than what is needed. So I would welcome if Rodney wanted to pass forward comments. I'd be happy to look at them, offer any thoughts I might have had on numbers or funding side, but
Okay,
whatever you would choose.
because I know that we supplement their budget to help
Yes, we
with
do.
the language programs. And when I was looking at that, when I went to that presentation, I looked at how they give money to language programs for BIE schools. And it's it's a small percentage of their funding is specifically, but within that category, there's, I think, 5 different things, and one of them is language. So if they have people who would be considered, I can't remember, but it's it's quite possible that some of those other things could take precedence over that little tiny pot of money earmarked for language, and that they would have to spend it on something else. And my comment to them was, I said, it was the policy of the United States government to eradicate tribal languages. So I think it's your responsibility to make more money available for languages to revitalize them. And one of the main people from that department in the funding department was there, and he said that they have grant money available for languages, but schools have to compete for it, and only half of schools get it. And so that's why a lot of schools cannot afford language programs and he said, so that's something that they need to consider to make the funding more robust for all schools, not make them compete for it, and to make the weights different so more money is allocated for language and culture. And the other thing that was interested to Eagle that I know they already do, they pick up kids and bring them home after practice, basketball practice and stuff like that. But they wanted to make that a heavier weight also for transportation. So, but it's just not my area of expertise. So, you know, I read all the stuff that they had when I was there, but I just thought, I wonder if, I assume Rodney has weighed in on this, but I just didn't know. And I got the impression they thought the tribe should do it. So I don't know.
It would be interesting to know how many tribes out there and the tribally operated contract schools are doing what we do. I imagine we aren't the only one because it's a tribal priority. And so we do that. I have thought that even if the allowance for language instruction was agreed to with the ISEP funding, it could just follow though that the school is still not able to include it and also provide the core operations that they need to with that funding. So it as I said, it's just a matter of it's not enough. And they may be forced to hold, say, their program spending kind of flat. I don't know what it does to their pay structure, whether their pay is comparable. That's the one I always wonder about. And there's just probably quite a few things that are going to kind of solely affect them as a contract school and not be the same in our self-governance BIA programs. It's just going to be a different mechanism for funding and operation.
All right, thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the Charlotte School District Indian Education Report. Steve, come on up. Good to see you, sir. Of course.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Perfect. We haven't had a lot of changes at Charlotte, numbers wise or anything like that. But two of the things I'm really excited about, if you look down with some of our assessments under spring of 2023, our Native American kids had a 10% increase in their proficiency on our Smarter Balance for ELA, and then a 16% increase in mathematics. And that was something, if you were here last year, where we had really struggled with. And the biggest reason for that improvement is attendance. Our attendance with Native American students has been a lot better, especially compared with our other regular ed students. We still struggle with we call them the usual suspects, I guess. There's just certain families and students that attendance is not a priority. We tried to make it a priority every year, but we really tried to focus on it last year, and it paid dividends for our Native American students. So we were really excited about that. We did some other things with extra support in our title programs and some math and ELA classes, but the biggest uptick was our attendance. And
What were some of your things that you did for?
So we went 3 or 4 years, we didn't have a full-time counselor. And just like you guys know, and I'm listening to you guys talk about budgets, so I'm like, yeah, I'm preaching to the choir. So we went 3 or 4 years without a full-time counselor, and then we were able to get one hired, and she started doing things, reaching out, making home visits. Our SRO tried to help us out, and not as a deputy sheriff, but more as a liaison. We sent letters. We tried to do things from the teacher. We did a thing with parents, parent of the quarter, parent of the month. And what we were looking for is, we always think of the student with the 4.0 as, you know, or the star of the quarterback and all those things, but we try to recognize the parents who we know are struggling financially or with illness in their families or things like that, but still get their kids to school. So we tried to recognize those sort of things. And I'm hoping that's one of the things that made a difference. We're small enough that we're able to do that with 1 or 2 people. And anyway, and I was just looking the other day, we got done with our first quarter, and right now, knock on wood, our Native American students are coming to school and doing good things. So that was the most exciting part of this report when I put it together, was that increase with mathematics and
Is there
ELA.
any relationship with the home visits and the increase of your?
Well, with the families that we identified, it was a major difference. I think we had that connection. And now this year we have a liaison through tribal ed that comes once a week, and that's one of her goals too, is to keep that going. They weren't able to find anybody last year for that position, and now we have someone that's there once a week. And when we met with her, I was like, hey, our number one thing is somehow trying to get a parent Indian ed committee going again, and keeping this attendance with our Native American students. And it's not just Native American students that we struggle with attendance, but we've seen an uptick in their improvements. So I think there's definitely a relationship there. So I give my counselor a lot of credit for doing that. Down below, most of those numbers have stayed the same with participation. I think one of the stigmas that we battle with, all of us in education, is I think there's a stigma that maybe special education has more Native Americans than others. And we have not experienced that in Charlotte. And I hate that it's a stigma, but our Native Americans are not necessarily special education students. And so I put that in there this year, that, you know, it's something good to point out that that's not true. It's kind of a thing that it's assumed, but it's not true. At least we don't experience that in Charlotte anyway. We have good participation in all our extracurriculars and co-curricular activities. So we're happy with that. I've listed all the different types of things we've been trying to do with Indian Education for All, and really appreciate some of the comments about like Native American languages, and some of the funding's not there. So if you're in our position and you're trying to make choices, when we have our meetings with like tribal ed or different things, it's like, well, we'd love to have that person hired on, but we have to make a choice between, again, maybe it's special education or finding a language teacher. We don't have any language teachers, Spanish, French, Native American, or anything. So that's a struggle. I want to give a shout out to Nadia Adams. She was at our school last week, and she was phenomenal. And so if you see her and know what she's about, she did a great job with our kids. And what was interesting about that is two of our students are on the Flathead Youth Council, and they were the ones that organized that. And that was a lot of fun for the kids. They did beading, they did rawhide work, they did Native American stories. So we try to do those sort of things and get speakers in, and that's been a big improvement too. And again, our counselor has helped a lot with that. So yeah, I don't mean to take up too much of your time. I can answer any questions you have or anything like that.
Questions from council? Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
Oh, I don't know. Thank you for acknowledging that Native American students don't always need to be in special ed. But with the child that I have, I recognize there is a need for him. And I remember in school, this guy over here was the smartest guy in the school. And I probably could have used some additional help back in those days, but yeah, I know it was a stigma and I know it was hard on kids to have to experience that. And it still is today.
Yeah.
And but I feel fortunate that it is available for kids that do need it. So, but thank you for acknowledging
Yeah.
that. I mean, I've never heard an administrator ever acknowledge.
Well, I think the other thing is that word inclusion, and we really try to make sure the kids are in the regular ed classroom rather than sitting in the resource room all the time. I mean, there are certain students that the resource room is where they're happiest, but if you can include them in as much as possible, that just is positive for everybody. So
Well, get this, my granddaughter walks by this classroom in Ronan all the time and she says, there's these kids just sitting in there. She goes, how come they get to just sit around and do nothing? And I tried to explain to her, this is people with probably special needs or have some different needs. And I said, you don't belong in there. You need to be in the classroom and you need to stay off your phone and study and do all those things. But yeah, I mean, they should, I don't mean hide those students, but
right.
when they're just sitting out there in the open, and maybe Terry can, understand and appreciate that too, because it gives the wrong impression to the
Right.
other kids.
Well, and that's another area where you can improve your attendance if you have them included, or if they're in your Skills USAs or your sports or your bands. They want to come to school, and it's just positive for everybody. So we really try to focus on that.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve, I see you say you got 6% Native American as voluntarily reported in the staff. I'm wondering, is that in the teaching?
That would be all employees. And
How many is that?
what's that?
I just wonder how many actual is that and what positions are they in?
We have a teacher, we have a custodial transportation person, and then we have a paraprofessional. Yeah. And I know there's more than that. For some reason, you can't go asking everything. So we can't ask, but at the same time, I know of 3 more. And 2 of them have told me they don't like to say anything because they're not CSKT. They're one of them is pro, and one is from a tribe in California. And for some reason, they don't, which that's their personal choice. So they have told me that under the radar, but yeah. So
Steve, for me in dealing with the learning disabilities, et cetera, personally with my family, those critical years are those 1st through 3rd grade. And so, do you have any reflective stats on that? And how many of those young kids that are Native American are getting extracurricular help for reading, for an example, in those early formative time periods? Because I spent a lot of my own money on my children to make sure that they were very went to Sylvan, went to this, did this, just to make sure, hired private tutors, just to make sure those grade school years, especially 1 through 3, 1 through 4, were critical for them. If they don't have it by then, by 4th grade,
Right.
they're not going to have it. So what do you have a reflection of that, Steve?
Well, right now in K through 3, we only have one student that's with a disability. And he is inclusion with the regular ed teacher about 50% of the day. And then the other 50%, he works with special ed and our title person. So he's getting 2 different sort of supports that way. But in our lower grades right now, yeah, we've only had one student that's Native American. And that student, his family is much like you must have been, because they are incredible parents and they work hard at it and they're trying hard all the time too. So he's got a wonderful support system, which you all know that battle at home is probably 75 or 80% of it. So he has a lot of support.
Any other comments or questions for Steve? So,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question
Yeah.
for you. So if you can point me in the right direction or give me some guidance. In January of 2022, the school district submitted a request for a business lease. That fall, we had found out that part of our bus barn and shop was actually on tribal land. So we submitted that request, and then I got an email in March of 2022 that was approved by the council, but it had to go through legal review. And it's now December of 23, almost January of 24, 2 years later, we still have not received any information on whether that has been finalized. And I try to check in about once a month. And if I get a response, it's still under legal review. I don't know where to go with it. We were trying to make sure we were doing things right when we discovered that. And any direction from you, or who do I talk to, or where should I go with it? I would appreciate. I've sent emails to several different people in lands, and maybe that's the wrong place.
You know, Steve, we'll check into. I apologize for that. But yeah, I do remember we took action on that. So
Yeah.
you're golden. It's just a matter of codifying it and formalizing
Yep.
it in the way that it needs to be. So I apologize for that lack of service.
That
Go
would
ahead, Jen.
be wonderful.
We'll check into it, Jen.
Yep.
I'll get a hold of Dan before legal review to have
Okay.
an update for you.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Just one comment, how many air miles are you from Ronan High School?
How many
Charlotte High
air
School?
miles?
Yeah.
Oh shoot, I don't know.
So it's just one of those things when I worry about, especially in the high school, because a lot of times, keeping children interested is having a wide curriculum, offering up so many other extracurricular things, et cetera, et cetera. And so when I saw, when you look at the symptoms of Eastern Montana, lack of enrollment in schools getting smaller and smaller, and then combining, and all of a sudden it's a hyphenated with like 4 or 5 communities,
Absolutely.
I wonder, is there a time, Steve, that we look at combining Charlo and Ronan into one high school?
I think it's coming for a lot of reasons. And I don't think it might not just be isolated to Ronan and Charlotte. It could be St. Ignatius, Ronan, just for some of the reasons you're talking about, shortage of teachers, funding. The legislature has made some big changes that are affecting all of us, especially in this valley. So like right now we do a co-op with Mission for Sports. We do a multi-district agreement with Ronan for FFA for the exact reasons you were just saying, because as we shrink and our enrollment is dropping, it's harder and harder to offer the same things to our students, and it's harder and harder to find people. Ronan is looking for positions and are still empty. I was just on the website the other day that I'm thankfully right now I have a mathematics teacher, but I see Ronan is still looking for a mathematics teacher. I think in the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to have to be some hard discussions, or like Dixon and Charlo, their enrollment is dropping in the elementary. our enrollment has dropped. We only have 10 kids in second grade. They're short on staff. I think those are, in the next 5 years, those discussions have got to start happening. And I think the legislature, some of the things they're doing is actually pushing more towards that. I was at a conference in October, and the big thing was talking about administration. And in Charlo and Dixon and those smaller schools, well, administrators do more than just be the principal. I mean, I'm subbing, sometimes I drove bus yesterday, I'm doing those sorts of things. But overall, when you look at the money and budgeting you're spending on administration, maybe there's some things to do to combine some schools so you don't have as much money spent on that, so you can spend it more on other places. The flip side of that is the requirements that we're supposed to be fulfilling with all the reporting we're required to do. I don't know who's going to do it then, because the things they want to know all the time, it's mind boggling. But I'm sure you guys deal with that just as much or more than I do. So, but I think you're right, Tom. I think that's coming in the next 5 years very easily for all sorts of reasons.
Okay, well, thank you, Steve.
Yep. Thank you guys. Have a good day.
You too. Happy holidays to you.
Don't you guys want a quick break?
Yep, let's take a quick break. Your maple bar if you haven't got it yet. Okay, we'll come back into session after our break. Greg and Melissa. Good morning.
Good morning, all. So we're here today to provide for you an update on the Friends of the Flathead nonprofit organization that supports the interests of the tribes itself. As you may know, it was established almost 3 years ago, and it had been principally dormant and shelved. The initial officers of the organization were described as employees of the organization. It identified the cash flow and investments, economic development, and the tribal resources lead, which at the time was Clayton Matt, Velda Shelby, and myself. We've been able to file all of the necessary tax paperwork on it to make it an active and ongoing endeavor. And as Melissa and I have been engaged, as well as the other members, we've thought it appropriate to kind of provide an update, let you know a little bit about the current status of it, how it's established, how it's set up, bring to you some concerns about what we see as required direction from council as we move forward. So the nonprofit itself is set up to receive gifts of cash, of securities, of donations of any sort from the general public who wish to match or have their gift receive 501c3 status or gift status. We have the established an account so that we can partition the gifts if they are coming in for a particular interest, if it's language, if it's culture, if it's a capital program. We have the ability to partition all of those donations into separate buckets.
Excuse
so
me,
that they can...
Mr. Chairman, so does this need to be an executive session? Okay.
So the portfolio is established with partitions that can be used to segregate gifts that would be received from donors. The beauty of having the 501c3 is that it speaks the same language that a potential donor might want. So if there is a capital project or if there's a specific need and we are approached by somebody who wants to make a gift, the language of the 501c3 matches the language of givers or donors in the public. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just curious why land's not on here, because we get donations of lands, but I don't know if they require, people that donate the land want a document back for tax reasons. I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
You raise a good question. So there is some growth and opportunity that needs to happen within this 501c3. I think that's one of the recommendations that we'll get to a little bit later, is that with the 3 people that are on the board that were initially put there to try to match the need that was described, there's certainly room for growth and development there. And we have some suggestions on who that might be. The mechanism of the 501c3 would be for, suppose someone wants to donate land, we would want to, through the legal department, engage with that donor to provide the right estate planning gift receipt so that they could put that land into the name of the Friends of the Flathead and receive the write-off or whatever the appropriate taxable benefit is in their own estate planning. And then for that to be held for a very brief period of time before the title is changed to the tribes itself, and then that portfolio or that piece of land becomes part of the portfolio and lands for them to use that. That is the Friends of the Flathead, or FOF, is the mechanism through which that passes, and it is characterized with the right language so that an estate planning attorney who says the Friends of the Flathead is registered as a 501c3 and can provide you with a receipt and can provide those different necessary estate planning documents matches what the donor or giver would need for that to be accomplished.
For how it's happened to this point, because we have received other properties, but I don't really need to know. I'm just was curious.
Well, I can speak to that. The tribes are treated as a state for purposes of donation, and donations made to the tribe itself are treated as tax deductible donations. where there have been, in, at least as I understand it, in the past, other 501c3 entities or people who want to be able to donate to a 501c3 that has that designation. So while they'll accept the letter from the IRS that basically explains how the tribes are treated as a state and donations are treated as being tax deductible, some people have requested what you would normally get from a 501c3 in terms of like, this is your, you give to the YWCA every year. And at the end of the year, they send you a statement saying how much you can write off on your taxes. Something like that is what they're really looking for. And then there are also some charitable foundation type places where they're looking to give money to other charitable foundations because then that's part of their mission and they're furthering their charitable causes. So my understanding is that when they created this, that it was to take the place of that purpose, to provide people with that assurance that it is going to be a 501c3 entity treated by the IRS as any other 501c3. But you're correct, any donation that is made to the tribes, and it may be that somebody wants to give land, for example, directly to the tribe. They can do either. They can either give it directly to the tribe or they can give it to the Friends of the Flathead. They can do either one and still receive a tax deductible. Yeah.
So to date, the first group that has begun to solicit donations was the bison range. And I think that shortly after Mr. Vern Claremont passed away, they began to accept donations on his behalf to the Friends of the Flathead Nation. As a matter of fact, the total raised in that endeavor was $1,250. So from the shareholder or council's perspective, there's been a donation received and it's been earmarked into this bucket. At some point in time, council would or should expect the Bison Range staff to come and say, we've raised this money through the Friends of the Flathead. We'd like to have a distribution of that to meet some specific need. From the standpoint of perhaps a capital fund or perhaps the funding of and creation of the visitor center at the Bison Range, that could be a capital project built into the Friends of the Flathead where we could actively be soliciting donations into that area and have them be segregated for the capital, the building of that center. And it would match the donor's need to provide a contribution into a 501c3 company. And it would provide the tribes with a mechanism to hold that and then to use those funds in that endeavor to meet that capital need. Any questions so far?
Questions for anybody? Do you have a printed material that we can give out to people?
I don't, but I can make it for you.
That'd be great.
I can work on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you. I see on here that you're anticipating a future website. I don't know when the tribe's new website's going to be live. Feels like since I've been on council, they've been talking about it. But eventually that's going to go live and be ready. And until you have your own website, are you planning to have like a little space on the new website so people can at least have a few paragraphs about Friends of the Flathead and maybe a place to donate, a button they can click and donate?
That discussion is ongoing, and as we've been developing the entire website itself, my comments and suggestions to Rick and to the team have been that there needs to be that button. We have, as an organization, looked at, the handful of us, the three of us plus Melissa, have looked at several examples of that, how to donate, how to give, and how to participate. And we have the mechanism in place through the cash flow and investments to receive that. And we expect to have that as a component of the website.
The one of the major efforts, at least in Five Valleys Land Trust was to help people with their estate planning and making sure that their will express their desire for a donation to the entity. And I don't know if we have any language there we could suggest to people for that purpose.
So in the last 6 months, I have provided beneficiary designation information to 2 individuals who requested, how do I give? And we've included the Friends of the Flathead language, the description of the organization, and the 501c3 number that can be plugged in like on a beneficiary designation form at a bank. Melissa and I are in discussions about creating that boilerplate language for an estate planning attorney to be able to receive and include in the estate plan, and that's on our radar.
Thank you.
So at this time, I think it's important to kind of transition, I think, into some of the opportunities that I think Melissa and I share as far as getting some clarification or input from council. The 3 people that are managing this are myself, Clayton Matt, and Velda Shelby. And I know that there may be an opportunity to expand the nature of the board to create opportunities to have other people who have expertise in fundraising or expertise in that giving, and for that to be a way to deepen the relationships in the public sphere in order to create those opportunities. That's one of the things that we see as a priority. And another thing that we see as a priority is for council to consider the position of a development director within the Friends of the Flathead. It can be a contract position, but it should be somebody that has sole responsibility for being the liaison between Friends of Flathead and potential givers, to look out to those 501c3s. Here we are at the end of the calendar year, so I imagine that there will be a season of giving that comes up, and the director of development or a development staff person who's principally tasked with that would be engaged with those entities that have similar interests that the Friends of the Flathead, and by conduit CSKT's interests, and can meet those matched giving needs with the Friends of the Flathead, the foundation itself. We think that's an opportunity to have someone whose sole responsibility would be to do that. I beg your pardon, sir.
I think given the scope of what we could do and, how big this could grow, that is a normal position that expectation that you would have. So I would support at least now, a part-time position that would be help develop that, especially if we get a couple of projects that we can identify that are significant. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think that's a great idea, and I think it would be really beneficial to CSKT to have a designated development person, an experienced development officer. I just think that there's so much untapped resources within our own community, and also nationally and internationally, that a lot of individuals and foundations would be interested in helping us and preserving land. And, we've done a lot of really unique projects as a tribe. And I think that it would be an easy sell. The fact that we have a designated wilderness area that we've chosen not to develop. So I think a lot of things make us really unique and worthy of investing in it. To do the ask, and it's an art. Asking that for that kind of money is an art form, and not everybody. So to hire an experienced person to do that, I think would be really beneficial to CSKT.
So I think our plans for the future are to go back and we'll meet with the board of directors itself. We will be coming back to the council with some recommendations for how we could amend the bylaws or articles to address some of the gaps that we see in terms of the membership on the board of directors, and wanting to identify somebody to add that has expertise in fundraising and working with nonprofits, because it's a skill set that we currently don't have with the membership of the board as it stands. And so we will be coming back to you with recommendations on how to expand the board to fill those gaps on the expertise that we need in order to move the Friends of the Flathead forward. I also anticipate we have our application pending with the IRS. There may be some tweaks we need to make related to that. To the articles and bylaws to address some of the gaps we've identified. So I just wanted to put that out there and let you know we'd be coming back to talk to council about that probably after the first of the year.
Good. Just one question on the recent funding we got for planning for the bison range. Was that facilitated through Friends of the Flathead?
It was not, it's going to be in a separate program, and my understanding it's segregated for the development of the plans for the Bison Range Visitor Center. We did receive the check, and it's being put into the program so that that can be used for that specific reason. But to extend that conversation, I think that ultimately, when the vision is created for what that Bison Range Visitor Center looks like, that becomes part of, I think, a long-term capital campaign where we are engaged with donors who see the vision that the tribes have will ultimately put in place for that visitor center, and then see the vision themselves and then direct their nonprofit or their family organization to provide funding in that capacity, and for it to be segregated, the building and the development of that.
Mike?
The hot spring spa.
There you go. I mean, the scope can get really big.
I think to your point, sir, that if that is a need, we can create a bucket, and that can be its own capital campaign or its own endeavor. And I see it as one meets with someone else and tries to identify what they're trying to accomplish, having to your point, Mr. Chairman, having maybe a slick or something in your pocket that you could deliver that outlines what those priorities are, or maybe highlights some of the impact that giving makes, is a real good way to make that connection.
Yeah, the Wildlife Restoration Fund that I'm a board member of, we have a whole handout, a packet of information that we give for potential donors. And that's just part of our board membership tool bag. And that's what I'd hope we would get to, that point where every one of us become an ambassador of Friends of the Flathead Foundation. The Friends of the Flathead Nation Foundation. I guess I get my terminology correct. Gotta get a good acronym for this.
Internally, we just call it FOF, Friends of the Flathead, but there is an entire language built into and we're abbreviating.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Would you be able to provide me a copy of that packet or an example of that?
I can, yeah.
I would love that.
Yep. You get up and find it now. Thank you. Thanks for the update. Way to be compliant. Get that report in.
If I can provide an update on the per capitas, just to make sure that we're all communicating openly and effectively. So last night we completed the entire check run, and they were delivered to the Property and Supply Postal Service to be stamped and sent out. They're headed to Missoula this morning for distribution tomorrow, which is the per capita date. And the upload for the direct deposit has been completed for effective tomorrow morning. That is on schedule. And I want to thank Wanda and her team for getting that completed correctly and on time. This is her first run and being the leader of that position.
Thank you, Greg. A lot of Christmases are dependent upon that.
I will, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dan.
He would like executive.
Okay, let's move into executive session. Okay, regular session. Go ahead, Bing.
Yes, I will make that motion, except the Charlo annual report that they brought in this morning.
Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous? Okay. Carol? Motion to adjourn? Okay, we're adjourned. You gotta get going. I gotta get down to the hospital. I gotta get going too. All right.